This watch was worn every day for a year. Not by me, but by the man who built it. His name is Richard Day, and he's hand building Microbrand watches right here in southwest London.
You know, I like being different. To me, hand built is about as pure as it gets. And I put this on my wrist and I wore it for 365 days.
Welcome back to Microbrand Watch, where we shine a light every week on the independent watchmakers who are doing things differently. Now, most of the brands that I cover have got small teams. Maybe they've got a designer, a movement specialist, someone in marketing, or someone doing logistics. But today we've got a true one-man operation. Richard does everything from design to machining, assembly to testing. Everything happens under this one roof, and every single watch passes through his hands. He spent years refining that process, learning through trial, error, and an awful lot of worn metal. So today let's take a look at 5 watches that trace that journey, from his early experiments to his most refined work yet.
Watchmaking for me initially started in around 2008 when I started making telescopes. This is one of them here. I had a healthy interest in watches at the time, along with a friend of mine, and I wondered whether I could physically make a watch in my workshop. I had some concerns because the machines are pretty big. They were made, or I bought them with the intent of making things on that kind of scale. But I had a go, and I came up with something that wasn't perfect, but it had some interesting ideas to it, and something that I felt was worth working on and exploring to see if I could improve it. So this one was about 3 or 4 builds off the first one. And I got to a point where actually I thought this was quite a cool watch. And I showed it to a friend who thought, actually, that's quite a cool watch. I've never seen anything quite like that before. But it is unusual. My watches are pretty unusual. They're flat backed. They don't have lugs that slide down over your wrist. And I wondered how it actually felt on your wrist. And I also wondered how brass would feel and how it would react on your wrist over the course of extended wear. And so I figured the best way to actually try it out would be to simply wear it. So I put away the watches I was wearing at the time, and I put this on my wrist and I wore it for 365 days, actually a little more. I couldn't figure out a better way of actually seeing how the watch would work without actually sticking it on my own wrist. And so that's what I did.
This red strap piece is the 5th watch that Richard ever made. And he wore it, as he's told you, every single day for a year. It's got the scratches, the softened edges, and the honest wear that comes from 365 days of daily life. And it's real proof that what he builds isn't meant to sit in a drawer. It's meant to live on someone's wrist.
Handmade to me is a real connection to the person who made whatever it is you're talking about, whether it's a car, a telescope, your watch, your bowl that you're sipping soup from. Handmade to me is a really, really strong connection with someone who made something for you.
Next up, the aluminium Vega. It's 40 millimeters across, 52 lug to lug, and just 63 grams without a strap. It's really, really feather light, but it's still solid. It's an experiment in materials that genuinely has worked.
The Antares and the Vega, essentially the same watch. One is made of brass, so considerably weightier and will develop a patina over time. And the Vega, which is aluminium, looks like steel, isn't steel. I wanted to move into a different metal and away from the brass, or at least have a different option from the brass, because most watches are steel. People like steel watches. They like the weight, they like the color, and I do too. However, steel is a real challenge to machine. It's very, very hard, which makes it very durable, but makes it very hard to machine. It's very hard on tools, which is why whenever you see steel being machined, it is typically in a CNC machine with water covering it, keeping the temperature down. And so although it's not as robust. It won't take a beating the way a steel watch will. The aluminium I'm really proud of, and I think it works very well. And it's also very different in that you look at it expecting it to be very heavy. You pick it up, but it's not. It's metal, but it's light. And I really like that about it.
And the difference with the Antares was that he had to reproduce the same quality time after time. And that was a completely different proposition to building watches one by one.
The process of making watches one by one was really more of a developmental process. I would make one, figure out what worked, what didn't, and then have another go. And these ones are still around. These watches are still around. I've given them to friends, and they're out there in the world doing their thing. And they're all still working, but they're a little bit different from the ones I have now. If you look at the one with the red strap, I wasn't even putting my name on it. And if you look really closely, you can see that I scribbled my name with a scribe. And so I figured if I were actually going to be able to sell these to anyone who might be interested, I would have to have at least a little bit of backup stock. And so it was just a simple matter of depth of stock and having them on hand.
And then we arrive at Richard's latest evolution in the design language. This is the Astro. This is the brass Astro, which has got a real warmth to it. It's already developing a gentle patina. And there's so much going on here. The dial here is inspired by telescope eyepieces, and it's got a real depth. It changes as the light moves. There's so much going on with it. And as we flip over to aluminium, the same design feels completely different. It's cooler to feel. It's crisper. It's more modern, if I dare say it. So we've got two versions, one idea, but both exploring how materials completely change the experience of watch wearing.
The Astro is a really interesting one, actually, because I was contacted by someone on social media who said, really like your watches. Could you maybe do me one with a more complex dial, maybe an astronomy-based dial? And he sent me a picture of, and I looked at it and I thought, I've seen this before. Why does this look familiar? And he had found something called an astrometric eyepiece, which is something that old school astronomers used to use, and it would project a red pattern into the eyepiece so that it was superimposed on the star field you were looking at. It's a very simple 360-degree radial scale and a linear scale across the middle. It looks like a really fascinating dial, and it is if you start delving into it, but really it's actually quite simple. They are just simple measuring scales. It was a brilliant idea. I thanked him very much. I made him his watch, and he said, please continue with my blessing.
So what ties all of these designs and watches together is Richard's philosophy. He builds by hand, he tests everything himself, and he makes watches that are meant to be worn, not just stored in a collector's box.
Building watches by hand is, you know, I like being different. I like doing things that you don't see a lot of. I like the fact that in 30, 40, 50 years time, my son might stumble across one of my watches. I like the connection between wearing something that someone has made and the person that made it. And that, I really get a charge out of that. So to be able to play one role of that, I think is really appealing to me. And to be perfectly honest, I mean, this is my second act. And so I'm going to use the time I have to do something really interesting and do something that I think has been time well spent.
Independent watchmaking isn't just about spec sheets or movements. It's about people like Richard, who are quietly building something with their own two hands and putting it out there into the world for people's enjoyment. Thank you for watching today. If you enjoyed the video, please do like and subscribe. It really does help the channel out. And again, as I've said, I hope that today we've introduced you to a microbrand that you'll want to watch. Until next time, enjoy your watches.